Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's talk is entitled The Evolving Role of Clinical Data Managers in Patient-Centric Clinical Trials. And my name is Kelsey Brown, and I'm the Director of Medical Writing Solutions at Transperfect Life Sciences in London, and I will be your moderator for today's session. So in today's event, we will run for approximately 60 minutes, including time for Q&A with our speaker towards the very end. This session is designed to be interactive, so it does work best when you are involved. So please feel free at any point in time to submit questions and comments for our speaker. And you can do that in the questions chat box in your control panel. And then we'll answer those questions towards the end during the Q&A session. If you do require assistance at any point in time, please feel free to contact me. And you can do that as well using that control panel using your messaging function. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode, and please note this session will be recorded and made available to you on the IDDI website for viewing within 24 hours after the webinar is complete. This webinar is proudly hosted by the International Drug Development Institute, IDDI. IDDI is the Center of Excellence in Regulatory Statistics and Clinical Data Science for global pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical device diagnostic companies with a focus on oncology, ophthalmology, CNS, and rare diseases. IDDI addresses your intricate challenges, enhances efficiency, and minimizes risks through the entire clinical trial process. And founded in 1991, IDDI is headquartered near Brussels, Belgium, with a U.S. Center of Operations in Raleigh, North Carolina. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to Joëlle Perier, to today's our speaker today. Joëlle holds a master's degree in engineering and biochemistry. She's a seasoned professional in clinical data management with 15 years of experience. Joëlle is Senior Lead Clinical Data Manager and Team Leader of Clinical Data Reviewers at IDDI, and she is deeply involved in process improvement, leveraging her great knowledge in CDM and her affinity for innovative technology. So with that, I will hand it on over to Joëlle.
Thank you. Show my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect. Thank you for that nice introduction. And thank you for everyone who is joining this webinar with me. Before going into the detail of that webinar, I would like to know how familiar you are with the patient-centric clinical trials. And then I would like to ask the poll being available for everyone. And like this, you can reply to that question and let me know if you are very familiar, you have some experience, or if you just heard about it, but you do not have concrete experience, or if you are not familiar at all. Is it available? Yeah.
Yes, I think everyone can submit their responses now on the poll.
Okay.
Maybe we'll give that a few more seconds for everyone to respond.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can see it myself, but
yeah. Let us know when you'd like to close it.
Yeah, I would like to see the the results, but I think that I cannot see.
Yeah, let me just close this. All right. And then you should be able to see the results. Can you see those on the screen?
Showing poll results, yeah, but I don't know where I should click. Sorry.
No, I think everyone should see. So we're looking at, in terms of results, so how familiar are you with patient-centric clinical trials? We have 17% said that they're very familiar, 8% said some experience, 58% said heard of it but no experience, and 17% said not familiar at all.
Okay, then you are probably more like me, that we don't have a lot of experience with such clinical trials, but I had the opportunity to prepare this nice webinar today and to identify how me, data manager, I will need to evolve to oversee this kind of study in the future. And then to start, I would like to explain, to contextualize what is a patient-centric study. And then in this study, the patient will be really at the heart of the study, and we will prioritize the patient needs and what are their preferences. And then we will build a meaning partnership with them in order to improve their treatment experience through the study and have the best study outcome that really matter to the patient. And I would like to just have an overview of what is a clinical data manager, even if I'm pretty sure everyone is aware of what is that. But we are responsible of the data oversight, and then we supervise the data collection activity related to a clinical study, and we ensure that the quality is there. But we are also responsible of the data integrity and be sure that we are following the regulatory expectation. Okay. Then I would like to start with explaining the differences that I identify between a patient-centric trials and a traditional one. And the first difference that I identify is the priority of the trials. On the traditional trials, like the one I have as lead clinical data manager at IDDI, we are more focusing on the scientific objective and on the clinical outcome of the study. Then we are collecting a lot of sample, performing a lot of assessment, and we are really focusing on the results. In opposite, in the patient-centric trials, we will more be focusing on the experience of the patient, and we will take into account their feedback and really focus on outcome that really matter to the patient. That leads to the second difference, which is the patient input. In a traditional trials, like the one I have for now, I'm never in contact with a patient. I'm in contact with my sponsor, with the clinical CRO, with the monitor, or even with the site time to time, but never with the patient directly, which will be a complete different approach in a patient-centric trials, because we will involve the patient actively since the beginning, then since the development of the protocol of the study. The two next differences are a bit linked together, and it's the type of population and the structure of the study. Because the type of population in the traditional trials will be quite limited due to the structure, which is rigid, where we are using a centralized model. That means that we have specific sites designated by the sponsor, and the patient can only be enrolled in such site. And then in a patient-centric trials, we will have a more diverse and representative population because the structure will be more flexible. We will use a lot of decentralized elements for even all the activities. Voilà. And the next the next difference is the data collection. In the traditional trials, the data are entered by the medical staff directly, and then that can lead to a delay between the time the visit is really performed and the time when the site will have the time to enter the data in the EDC, because they have so many stuff to do in parallel that they do not prioritize the data entry. In a patient-centric trials, as we will involve the patient in a lot of steps, there will be more involved in the data entry, and then the data entry will be quicker, and we will be also using the technology as much as we can. The last retention rate, the last difference is the retention rate, which is quite low in the traditional trials because these studies are quite heavy. There is a lot of procedure to be done at every visit. There is a lot of visits that need to be done. And in the patient-centric trials, the retention rate will be higher because we will more focus on what really matters to the patient. I would like to develop a big concept that will be put in place in a patient-centric study. And that concept is the patient engagement. But what it means, the patient engagement is the fact that the patient will be actively participate in that study, and he will be able to be the main actor in his care pathway if he wants to, and he will be able to influence and orientate the study direction and the study outcome. And what is the benefit of this is that as the patient will feel more invested in the study, he will provide more accurate information, and then we will improve the data quality. And we will also increase the retention rate and the recruitment as well, because we will build a trustful relationship between the study team and the patient. Oops, going too fast. Yeah, okay. Let's now see how these patient-centric trials will change our traditional way of working. And the first change will be that we need to minimize the number of on-site visits by using all the real-time data that are available from wearables, from ePro, from mobile electronic health record, and so on. And the data manager will need to be able to manage all of this data in real time. And to do this, the data management will need to build a system that is robust enough to handle a large volume of data from many devices. And then we need a system that will allow us to process and analyze the data in real time. In parallel of that robust system, we need to start developing patient portals that will be easy to use by the patient, where they can find study information like the protocol, all of their study results. They should be able to find also their progress in the study. They should be able to provide any feedback at any time in the study on these portals. And the main section would also be the FAQ to allow them finding any response to their question. The second update is that we will need to simplify our study design to have an easy data capture. And like this, we need to reduce the complexity and reduce the number of visits that are performed, because for the moment, there is too many points of interest in the study. The design are quite complex. It's not so easy to understand what we need to enter and where and why. And then we are losing patient engagement if we will continue like this and the patient needs to enter the data themselves. And to understand how we need to build the study, we will need to develop user-friendly survey and questionnaire where there will be not too many medical terms and technical terms, because we will do not have only scientific person that will reply to this form, and then it should be understandable by everyone. And we should also implement all the health applications that are available in our smartphone, for example. Like this, the patient will be able to easily report any adverse event that he could have without having the medical stuff involved. Okay, then another point that we need to take into account now is that we need to involve the patient early in the process in the clinical trials. They will be involved at the design of the protocol already to be sure that we will identify what will be relevant and meaningful as an outcome for the study. And then when the study will be live and on a regular basis, we will check the patient feedback on a regular basis to be sure that the outcome are still aligned with what really matters to the patient. I found interesting to share some strategy that we should put in place to bring the trials to the patient. And the first one would be the electronically informed consent, because it will improve the accessibility of the study, as the patient could be enrolled anywhere in the world. The second one would be to allow non-site trial visits. Like this, we will reduce the travel barriers, for example. We should also start collaboration with the local healthcare provider to ease the study enrollment and to ease the study for the patient. And the last one would be to directly distribute the investigational product to the patient. Like this, they can go to the pharmacy, for example, and directly receive the treatment. But of course, it can be only for a study where we do not have medical act to give the treatment. Okay, oops. There, okay. An important topic for the patient-centric trials would be also the general data protection rules that should be in place. And the GDPR is a European law to collect, process, and protect the personal data to ensure that the privacy and the security are there for the individuals. And for personal data, we mean any information that can identify a person directly or indirectly, then all the data that will be, else data that will be collected, but also the IP addresses that we will have when the patient will connect to a system. And GDPR classify the health data as a special category that will require an explicit consent or a legal justification for processing. But how this can be applied in patient-centric trials? We should first do data anonymization from the study setup. And to do that, it means that we should collect only what we need. We should anonymize the patient identifier. We should separate personal data from the study data. We should apply role-based accesses. And the sponsor should also conduct data protection impact assessment before the study will start. We should also build a trust place for the patient and be transparent with them. That means that we need to explain what is collected, why, where it will be stored, and for how long. We should also explain who will have access to this data, then the sponsor, the CRO, the vendor, the regulator, for example. And an important point in the GDPR is that we need to provide an easy withdrawal system in case the patient wants to stop everything. And then let's go now with the new skills that are required for a data manager with patient-centric study, and identify two categories of skills. There will be some soft skills, because we will need to adjust our way of communication we will be more involved with the patient directly, and then we need to learn how to communicate with them directly to keep them engaged in the study. And we should continue to elaborate a proactive and collaborative problem-solving attitude. And the second category is the technical skills. We need to implement and learn how to use all the technology that we have as of now, like the AI and the machine learning, to implement them in our processes and improve the data interpretation and the data quality. We should stay up to date with the emerging technology, like what is available on the smartphone, what can we use easily and integrate in our system, and we need to learn how to manage complex data collection and improve our processes. And finally, we need to stay competitive by training and certification on this topic to be sure that we will adopt the best practices and use the new trends. As I mentioned, the technology, I try to develop a bit how the AI could support a patient-centric trials. And then here, how the AI could help the patient directly. The AI could ingest a lot of data, like the medical history, the lifestyle factor of the patient, the real-time health metric, and so on, and then allow to personalize the patient care. The AI could also improve the patient engagement because we could put in place chatbot, virtual assistant, and then the patient can communicate easily with the AI and receive some feedback and answers. And then we can also improve the communication and the accessibility because, for example, the AI could automatically translate in the mother language of the patient any information that have been received through the study. The AI could also help the medical team by also synthesizes all the complex data of the study and then provides some recommendation to ease the decision making and be sure that we are respecting the patient preferences. The AI could also analyzing imaging, for example, and then allow to detect earlier a disease and then propose proactive care. That could be also something we could put in place. And the AI could also address some systemic challenge, like optimizing the resources allocation inside, and then provide a more patient-friendly healthcare experience. Even if we have a lot of benefits that we could have with the AI, it also raised some concern about this that we need to reply before moving forward with AI. It's how can we ensure the privacy, the trust, the equity, and then we should not consider we should consider the AI as a support, but not replace the human, and we should keep the human in the loop for sure. About the regulation and where we are with AI, the GMP guidelines has been recently updated to provide guidance on how to use the AI and machine learning. And this is to ensure the quality, the patient safety, and the data integrity. And the draft was under public review until end of October this year. And we should expect a final version in 2026. But what are the evolving responsibility of the data manager? We will be, as data manager, more involved in the trial design as we will be more involved in the patient engagement strategy. We will also need to develop process that will be robust for data validation and data cleaning to ensure the data quality and eliminate all the inconsistencies. We will still need to be sure that we are following all the regulations that are in place, like the GDPR, and be sure that the security of the patient data are there and that we are following ethical practices. And we also need to learn how to analyze real-time data and develop systems that can be adapted quickly to any update. As data manager, I am already in a cross-functional team, already at IDDI, because I'm working with all of my colleagues, the one who are developing the EDC, the one who are developing the SAS mapping, the one who was doing the cleaning, for example. But I'm also in contact now with the sponsor, with the CRA, with the other clinical CRO, with the site, with the third-party vendor as well, or anyone else. But in patient-centric study, we will need to collaborate now with the patient directly, and we will need to help them understanding their role and that they are important in the study, and we need to be sure that they will stay engaged in the study as long as possible. And the second new collaboration will be with all the local healthcare center. I found interesting to know where we are as of now, and when I searched a bit on the topic, I found an interesting survey performed by a competitor, PPD, in 2023, and they asked medical team on 55 sites over the world, mainly in the US, but also in Europe and in Asia a bit. And they ask these people if they conducted any decentralized trials over the past 12 months, and already 88% of the responders said that they have at least one clinical trials with some decentralized element. And on this percentage, already 31 of the responders replied that they only could conduct hybrid or fully decentralized clinical trials. Then it's already a huge number of the study where we have decentralized element. And they ask the same site, what would be the plan in the next 12 months? And the percentage increased a bit. Almost 93% of the responders mentioned that they will expect to have at least one clinical trials with some decentralized element. And on this percentage, 29% said that it will be only hybrid or fully decentralized trials. Then decentralized trials are coming more and more. Another question that I found interesting in their survey is what was the therapy area on the trials where we have decentralized elements in the past 12 months, but also in the future. And it's the three same category that are the first. It's the cardiovascular study, the infectious disease study, and the oncology and hematology studies, where we have the most decentralized element. About the regulatory, the FDA already provides some guidance on how to collect the data from a patient-centric study, how to proceed this data. and how to submit this data to the authority at the end. And the 3 first guidance are already a final version and are available in the FDA website. And the last one is a draft, not yet final, but is already also available in their website. My vision for the future of the clinical data management is that we need to develop hybrid clinical trials, let the choice to the patient if they want to be part, be the main actor in their treatment pathway, or if they want to delegate everything to the medical team, have more decentralized element in all the study as well. We should stay up to date with the emerging trends, start to implement technology and methodology in our processes like AI and machine learning for the data cleaning, for the data analysis, and so on. And be sure that we are still following the regulatory expectation to ensure the accuracy and integrity of the data. And in a long-term period, we will be more and more involved with the patient directly, with the strategy to engage the patient and keep them engaged. But we also need to develop studies that are quickly adaptive to the change, to be sure that the study will still be aligned with what really matters to the patient. As a conclusion, I think we are only at the beginning of the evolution of the clinical data management. And the main responsibility that will come will that the data manager will need to ensure that the patient voice will be heard and valued, that we will take into account their feedback through the study, and then improve the patient experience. We still need to prioritize the data quality and be sure that we are following all the regulatory expectations. And we will be also more involved with the patient engagement. And we will need to ensure that the outcome of the study will be robust, reliable, and follow ethical rules. Thanks you, everyone, for having listened to me today. If you have any question, let me know, or if you want to share your experience with such study, I'm also aware.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joëlle. So we'll switch to Q&A next, and let me just reshare my screen, just as a reminder. Okay. Can you see my slide deck?
Yeah, I can see the thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll switch this to presentation mode. Okay, well, great. Well, yeah, thank you again, Joëlle, for your detailed presentation. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone in our audience as well really enjoyed that. We will start with Q&A from here. So just wanted to remind everyone, in your questions and control panel here, you should be able to request and share any questions that you may have, and we can start walking through those during this Q&A portion of today. All right, so we do have some questions that we can start with here that we've received. So I'll start with this one here. Joëlle, do you think patient centricity plays a key role in the transition from clinical data manager to clinical data scientist? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Thanks for that. Yes, I think the patient centricity will play a role in that transition. It will not be just a technical shift. We will be more involved with the patient and be sure that their experience through the study will be good, and that we will really focus on what matters to them. And then I think that we will transform from a technical function into a more strategic function to the patient health. Hope that I replied to the question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great. We'll move on to the next question here. Do you think patient centricity impacts study results? I think that's definitely a really valid, important question as well. What do you think?
Yes, I think it will be impact the study result, because as the patient will be more engaged, and that we will more focus on what is matter to them, and we will prioritize their needs. As I mentioned during the presentation, I think we will increase the recruitment, and then the retention rate will also be higher than before. And as the patient will feel invested in the study, we will provide data that are more higher, I would say. Then we will improve the data quality, and then we will have a better compliance with the protocol and probably reduce the variability, have less protocol deviation, and then we should have more reliable outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thinking out loud, I think even just having more diverse patient populations and making sure that those clinical trials are more accessible. Absolutely. All right, we'll go to our next question here. How do you go about getting patients involved so early when often sites aren't selected, CIVs conducted, etc.?
That's a good question as well. I think it will be interesting to discuss with them, because we do not care at all at this point to what the patient wants and what's really matter to them. We are more focusing on study result and collecting so many samples, so many information in the EDC, but at the end, what is really used in the final analysis, not a lot. And then if we prioritize, if we take the patient into account, then we should have studies that are easier, and then even the site will have less work, I would say, with study, and then we could, yeah. I think it will be really interesting to discuss with them and implement what really matter.
Yep, absolutely. All right, shifting gears a little bit here. You mentioned AI earlier. We had a question here. How is AI being addressed from the regulatory authorities' point of view?
I think I already mentioned the GMP Annex 22 in my presentation. Yeah. Then we also already know that they already work on it, and they have almost a final version that will be released soon. But I also know that FDA and EMEA are working on this. The EMEA is a bit in advance compared to the FDA because they already released the European AI Act, where they are explaining expectation regarding the use of the AI, and be sure that we will keep the safety of the patient and follow ethical rules. The FDA published something about the medical device, but they are now working on something related to the AI and machine learning as well, to ensure that it will be used properly and that the patient safety will be kept. Then it should come for the FDA. Not yet, but it will.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what new guidelines and regulations will come about in 2026.
Indeed.
Yeah. We had another question here. Will the requirements from the data collection tool change as a result of patient-centric approaches? Traditional clinical trial tools will not be suitable and too rigid.
I'm not sure I get the question. Can you repeat that one? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Will the requirements from the data collection tool change as a result of patient-centric approaches? Traditional clinical trial tools will not be suitable and too rigid. I'm not sure what's that referring to specifically.
I'm not sure. It's
Yeah, maybe it's that specific one. I don't see any other questions that have come in. So if there are no further questions here, then I think we can close a little bit early today. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. And I'll just switch to my last slide here. And thank you so much, Joëlle. This is an excellent presentation, and I hope
Thank
everyone
you.
in our audience, really enjoyed today. If you do have any further questions, you can reach out to info@iddi.com. So it's info@iddi.com. Please note, if you do have any other questions, you can also reach out to there. And then keep a eye out for any other developments, any other future webinars. A survey window will pop up in your screen afterwards. So if you can please provide feedback, that's always helpful to improve future webinars. And just a final thank you to Joëlle for speaking today. It was a great presentation, and it's been my pleasure to be your moderator. So on behalf of the team, we thank you all for joining us. And until next time, take care and bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.